What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the You Know Ball podcast. I am your host, Trill, bro, dude, and Slop season is heating up. I am back on my bullshit, and we are.
Game.
What was that?
It was a Willis Reed game.
I'm doing a Willis Reed game right now. I said I'm ramping up.
He's playing on one throat, folks.
I'm ramping up post surgery. Last night I did a little stream. Tonight I'm going to do a little podcast, and then next week I will be in playoff shape. And our playoffs, the NBA Finals might be happening right now, but our playoffs is Slop season, which is more important than anything to us.
Yeah, well, this is like, I don't know. This is like, you can go to any of the other like NBA podcasts to do whatever pretend Mickey Mouse. The NBA Finals. We're the only ones that are going to be covering
the real
right
stuff.
now. The real stuff. Yes, exactly. So this is if you want, go to the Ringer or whatever. If you want to hear about the NBA Finals, doesn't matter to me unless the Pacers come back and win, and then it's the greatest finals of all time. But for now, it basically doesn't matter. Nobody cares.
Yeah, and in a country where journalism is dying, it's important that we have podcasts like the You Know Ball podcast to uphold this, this tenet of journalism and the importance of, talking about things that we heard in Twitter DMs, which is really what journalism is at the end of the day.
I'm not going to lie. I feel like at this point we are unironically more ethical and have better reporting than the Washington Post and the New York Times.
It's
completely unironically.
Well, from a sports section standpoint, they bought The Athletic, so I think that they might have us. They might have us a little bit there, but
overall, though, you count everything.
I don't think we're far behind ESPN. I mean, Stephen A. Smith's playing solitaire on his phone at the NBA Finals in the middle of the game.
That's awesome, dude. It's also like, it's not like it was like a 24-point blowout. It was probably the best game. It's been a good finals, and it was probably the best or second best game of this finals. So it's very funny to
back amazing games. Like you couldn't ask for much more from a neutral fan perspective. Mm-hmm. But Stephen A. Smith is just mad that he can't be, risen up the BBL baddies in South Beach right now. So he's taking it out. He's spiting the city of Indianapolis by playing solitaire on his phone. Look, you ever been on a work road trip and you're just like, man, I wish I was home right now. I wish I didn't have to be here. And you go on your phone and you're just dissociating and playing solitaire.
Yeah.
Who can relate?
He should have been playing Balatro, man. Like that's I gotta get him on that. He can just be playing normal solitaire is crazy. Like play at least play Spider. Or one of the other
use Coach Lou's promo code and play Royal Kingdom. How are you not? How are you not up on that? Come on, solitaire. What is it? 1975. We've been playing solitaire on computers since we were 4 years old.
He's such a bag man. I'm surprised he hasn't started doing the ads for the mobile games where he's like, right now. This is a mobile game where it actually looks like the advertisements. It just says that over. This is Ebony. This is we got to get him in there. I feel like there's a bag to be had there once he figures out that he should be.
Stephen A. Gotcha.
Yeah. Genshin Impact is one of the greatest games of my life. You get a 5-star pull every 90 draws.
Listen, I have a ton of respect for Zelda and Breath of the Wild. But Genshin Impact is one of the greatest I've ever seen.
It's Venti. He's the Archon of the Wind, and he is a great character. You can really do some work there. Yeah, no. So anyway, we're not going to be talking about that bullshit. Who cares? The finals doesn't matter. We're talking about the real NBA season.
If anyone is wondering if Jalen Williams had a good game last night, Sham doesn't care about the finals right now.
Yeah. Or SGA. After I said he was selling the whole game.
You called him SGA Russell or whatever.
Yeah, I called SG Angelo Russell, and then he went off.
A vintage thing for D'Angelo Russell to do. So let's talk a little bit about the KD trade news that we've got in the last few days, which is we've kind of gotten the same general rumors around KD most of this cycle. I don't really think that there's been anything that has been new information until this last few days, really, where we kind of put together, all right, here are the teams that could possibly trade for him. And it was the Rockets, the Spurs, the Wolves, and then the Heat. I mean, we talked about this on stream last night. That's very clearly just Pat Riley, sending a Motorola two-way message to Barry Jackson and telling him, hey, let him know that we're trying for KD right now, but they're driving a hard bargain. We won't give up Terry Rozier. So then in a few months from now, when they dodge the tax at the deadline, he could say, I tried to trade for Kevin Durant, but they were being unreasonable.
Yeah. It's who could possibly, I can't believe they didn't want our package of Andrew Wiggins, Terry Rozier, and Jaime Jaquez.
I mean, really, like, are the Suns self-sabotaging? You got to think about it like that. You got to think about the fact that, like, here's two players that we don't want at all, and one player who cucked our coach. And they don't even want. He's Latino, and he's there in Phoenix. Los Suns. I mean, it's unbelievable that they wouldn't go for that. You could have a Mexican heritage night, and sell the place out.
Zach Lowe reported that it's a competitive offer, and why would he lie about Miami?
He's so back on his bullshit.
It's awesome, dude. He's the Raptors and Heat just immediately got back at his thing. I can't wait for him to. We just need him to like shit on the Clippers for no reason again this offseason.
The East, a lot of people are talking about like who's going to benefit the most from the East being wide open next year. The Pacers as the defending champions, the Magic maybe as one of the young teams. The Cavs might be able to, after their 60-win season, could they build some momentum on that? No, the real answer is Zach Lowe, who can now make arguments that the Heat and the Raptors are sneaky underdog. Yeah. Nobody believes in us teams in the East next year. And even if they don't trade for Kevin Durant.
I can't wait for him to pick the Hawks, the Heat, and the Raptors to all make the playoffs. It's going to be awesome.
Let's go. So Kevin Durant, the latest news we've got is basically that Kevin Durant is, it sounds like it's coming down to two teams. Now, maybe the Spurs it's either one of two things with the Spurs, where they've either decided we're going to go youth movement. We got the second pick of the draft, which we'll talk about later. And we're just going to take 2 and 14, and then we'll figure out who we're trading for later if we do end up trading for someone. If not, maybe we'll make a deeper, better team around Wemby and Fox and Castle and whatever. Or they're trying to currently come up with a trade right now, maybe for the second pick, where they can stack more picks that they get in the future for Kevin Durant so that they can keep some of the guys on their current roster. Because when we talked about it, the framework of all of these deals has been basically around certain players. And it's from the things that Gambo's saying, and Gambo, tough day for Gambo. There's a lot of protests against Trump today, so I know he's really struggling.
Yeah.
But, thoughts and prayers with pray #pray for Gambo.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are to believe, because he's been pretty accurate in his reporting on the Suns stuff, if you're to believe what he says, it sounds like the offers from the Spurs were, it sounds like they were basically willing to give up Harrison Barnes, Jeremy Sohan, and Devin Vassell. And the Suns really wanted Castle or whatever. The Rockets, on the other hand, it would be something built around Jalen Green and Jabari Smith Jr., maybe with some of the Suns picks that they own this year and in the future. And then the third team is the Wolves. And at first, we all just assumed, well, Randall for KD makes sense because positionally, those two don't make any sense together. But what we've come to understand in the last few days is it sounds like Rudy Gobert is actually the one that would be included in this trade. Yeah. So it would be something like Rudy Gobert, Dante DiVincenzo, and then possibly we've heard rumors of a third team getting involved maybe down the road that could change who they end up sending out in this trade.
Well, we can just say, because those are two second apron teams. So it's obviously the Nets. There's no other.
It has to be the Nets.
Yeah. Like, that's the only like team that's available. But
and so, they could, by the way, both of those teams could get out of the second apron after this trade if they involve the Nets.
Yeah. And I honestly, I think it sounds like the Wolves are the leaders in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
With this, like, because and that makes sense because I think the Suns would be trying to get their own picks back in a Rockets deal. And I don't think that value proposition like lines up. Like, I don't think, and I don't know. We've heard I've heard from a couple of different sources that Udoka really wants Durant and maybe Raphael
Which makes
Stone.
sense. They tried to unite on the Nets a few years ago, and he coached him for a little bit as an assistant coach.
Yep. And it sounds like Raphael Stone's like less interested in that, which I think kind of makes sense given what this asking price is, where if the Rockets are making the trade and the Suns definitely want their picks back, that is a way higher price than anyone else is paying, like in this trade. Like,
I mean, they already have one lottery pick, the 10th pick in this draft.
Yeah.
And then if you look at those future Suns picks that they owe, that could be 3 top 10 picks right there. Yeah, potentially that you're giving up for a 37-year-old Kevin Durant.
I just like I do think the Rockets should use some draft picks to make their team better this year, but like if it's costing a Suns pick to get Kevin Durant, I just think that's too steep a price. Like, and there's other ways to improve your team. Like
the real interesting part for me, if I'm the Rockets, is getting off the Jalen Green contract, but that's something that they might not be as anxious to do as I would be if I also would have never signed that contract in the first place. So. But the Wolves element of it is, it sounds like you said, they're the leader in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
So they essentially, from what we understand, we haven't heard anything about draft capital, whether they're including draft capital or not, but it sounds like the framework would be something like Gobert and DiVincenzo to the Suns, KD to the Wolves, and then Naz Reid or Nickeil Alexander-Walker sign and trade or whoever to the Nets. And I mean, you might be able to explain this a little bit better, because I looked at that every time we talk through a KD to the Wolves trade, I just talk about the fact that how much salary they have to send out to match the KD number.
Yeah.
And I get a little queasy because I'm like, you're trading 4 players for 1 player, basically, because you're going to lose the 3 players you send out. And then there's a possibility that one of Naz Reid or Nickeil Alexander-Walker could walk in free agency after that as well.
Yep.
Even if you work this deal out and you like your chance to keep those guys, there's no guarantee. So you basically could be doing a 4-for-1 swap. And then if you're the Wolves, you're sending out Rudy Gobert. You have no centers on the roster. Even if you keep Naz Reid, which it sounds like they might not, it sounds like he's not a center. They're really running out of bigs is what I'm trying to say. So the interesting perspective from my perspective is, do they keep that pick to draft a big at 17?
I think that's the plan. I also think, especially if Naz Reid is the one in the sign-in trade going to the Nets, what's interesting is there's a sign-in trade you can double sign-in trade. And this is one of the this new CBA makes that make a little bit more sense from a lot of,
because they're out of the second apron, they're allowed to do the double sign-in trade.
Yes. They would be allowed to do the double sign-in trade. So you could, the mechanics of the trade being like you would Gobert and DiVincenzo to the Suns. The Naz Reid signing at like 25 million or, whatever the number is, whatever Naz Reid's contract is going to be. He goes there. Somebody like Durant Sharp is a solid big who, probably mid-level exception, a little bit more to get him to agree to this or something. The main problem with this mechanics is that with every sign and trade is the player also has to agree to it. And every time that happens, it makes it a little less likely because somebody might not see their value totally the same way. But again, the fact that the Nets have the entire market by the balls and you're kind of bringing them into the trade does make it a little bit more likely, because these guys are going to realize, if the Nets are involved, that's my only bargaining chip would be going to them in free agency. So they kind of have to get involved with this. But anyway, so Durant Sharp comes back for 11 or 12 million or something like that. And then, there's things like, are you including 17? Like, because you could also put Conley in this deal at that point if, you know, and
Day'Ron Sharpe is involved.
Day'Ron Sharpe's involved. So then you're switching out Conley, and you could like, are you sending like a second round pick? Are you sending one of your other young guys like Josh Minott or Leonard Miller or someone like that to like pay for like Conley into the cap space? And that's kind of a valuation with the thing. But long story short, so what you end up with, and then if Randall's back at a similar number, whether that's signing a new contract that's longer or just opting into his player option, then you're looking at a like starting five of Ant, Jalen McDaniels at the 2, Durant at the 3, Randall at the 4, and Day'Ron Sharpe at the 5, with Terrence Shannon Jr., Rob Dillingham, and whoever you draft at 17 in this draft off the bench. And you are in, this is going to sound insane, they're actually in striking distance of being under the tax in that scenario.
That's wild. I didn't realize there was a scenario where they could get KD and do that, but I guess if you're sending out that much money with Gobert, Dante, possibly not re-signing Naz Reid, possibly losing Nickeil Alexander-Walker in free agency, and also sending out Mike Conley's money, then that does make some sense. And now the Day'Ron Sharpe element, if there is a double sign and trade potential there, that makes me like the trade a little bit more for the Wolves. Not that I'm a big Day'Ron Sharpe guy, but you need a center, and he's at a minimum someone who's going to clean up on the glass, create extra possessions for you, and do a little bit of the dirty man, dirty work for a big man, which they will very obviously need if they move on from Rudy Gobert and they decide to start all these guys.
I also forgot the most important thing. You also get a Naz Reid traded player exception for whatever his new contract is. No, but that like unironically is kind of important, because you would then have like $25 million traded player exception that you could use like next offseason.
Bobby Marks, how many traded player exceptions actually get used?
Not very much, but this would be a rare instance when it actually kind of would make some sense.
I guess if you have no other way to make trades, I mean, that would be, important.
It lets them keep a little bit of flexibility. It lets them get 1 year away from resetting the repeater, which is very important when you have a young superstar in Anthony Edwards under contract.
So they're basically doing a double reset from last year to this year to the next, because they with the Karl Anthony Towns Randall trade, they got off long big money, and now they're getting off potentially more money, and then if KD and Randall sign for lower hits for longer years, then that's probably what they're good. That's probably why they're so interested, because it's the benefit of getting a really good player, but also saving money in the long term and making sure that you're not in the aprons.
I mean, it is, but the thing is, I mean, it is at the cost of 5 rotation players. Like, you are basically
that's a lot
creating your team again from scratch, which is crazy. And I think that's why everyone's kind of, because it's really rare that conference finalist teams do something that dramatic
back-to-back years.
And that's what I was just gonna say. But the thing is, we know Tim Conley, and he's like not scared to do shit like this.
No. Well, also he trusts his drafting record. Like, he trusts the fact that he could just draft replacements for fringe rotation players. Like, I don't think old Mike Conley and Nickeil Alexander-Walker should matter as much when factoring into these plans as like your starting center Rudy Gobert, who, if you view it as we can get some supplementary help with. By the way, just for everyone's going to ask me what my thoughts on this are if it goes through for the Suns. Anything the Suns do, I'm going to hate. Like, it's just, there's nothing they can do unless they trade Kevin Durant for a better player that I think, or multiple good players, like real depth rotation pieces that I think can make that team make any sense. Because going into next season with Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Rudy Gobert, and a bunch of fringe role players again, is just a nightmare waiting to happen. It's in the Western Conference, you cannot do that anymore. Your best case scenario is you make the play-in. You're not going to be a top 6 team. Like, there's nothing they could do.
Even being a play-in team anymore. I'm going to be honest. Like,
they got to get some injury luck.
Yeah, like I don't think that team, if you're losing Kevin Durant and you're swapping out that team, like, you like Portland, like, might be good. The Spurs are definitely going to be better. The The Mavericks are almost certainly going to be better again, adding Cooper Flag, even if Kyrie's out. Like, and then all the other teams that are ahead of you, the Pelicans, like even with like what's going on with Zion, like I still think that the Pelicans are probably going to project to be better than them. Like nobody besides you're not going to be for sure better than anyone besides the Jazz, and you're definitely worse than at least 8 or 9 of the teams. So I don't even see a pathway to them like even making the fucking play-in. So what are you doing? You should be trading Devin Booker to the Rockets like tomorrow for your picks back, but they're not doing that. For
Kevin Durant missed 20 games last season. Do you want to guess what their record was in those 20 games?
Let's say 5-15.
3-17.
Oh my God, dude.
This is what I'm saying. Is like, look, Rudy Gobert's still a good player. He's going to help you have a competent defense. Also, he's going from a perimeter defense of Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker to Grayson Allen, Ryan Dunn, who do we know if he can play with him offensively because of the offensive limitations that both of those guys have. And then who's their third perimeter defender here? Dante DiVincenzo, Royce O'Neal.
Yeah.
Like it's just not workable, dude. There's nothing they can do to salvage this situation unless they either get incredibly lucky. One of the reasons why I like them trading with the Rockets or I like them trading with the Spurs was because you could get the 10th or 14th pick, and now maybe they get the 17th pick in this draft.
Yeah, they could
this trade.
Maybe
they get the 17th pick in this draft. But one of those 3 picks and take a swing. Draft Derek Queen or draft Colin Murray Boyles. Draft someone who can give you upward mobility that if they hit, oh man, we might have gotten a second or third star here, whoever is still on the team after that. And we can actually have a new window here. Like we can have a pathway to being a competent team again instead of trading for, a declining Rudy Gobert, Dante DiVincenzo, who's on a good contract, but is a fringe starter and doesn't solve any of the issues that you currently have with your roster build and no pathway to get good players. Like this is the Sun. Once again, why I feel so strongly that the Suns should just trade Devin Booker to the Rockets and get their picks back is because everything they do, unless there's an incredible amount of luck out of nowhere where they have some outlier shit happen, there's no way to get out of this hole that they've dug themselves into. And they're going to compound it by signing Devin Booker to a 2-year, $150 million extension this offseason.
And I guess we've obviously seen this like before, but like financially, there's also going to hit a point like he broke. Like I don't know.
He's got the worst fucking lawyers.
He really does have the worst fucking lawyer. He arrested. It was the joke we were making last night on the stream. Is that this is the Arrested Development? He's an Arrested Development character.
He is. It's the sudden valley, the sudden decline in the valley.
Listen to this, Michael. I've got a plan. We trade 1 first-round pick for 3. It's a perfect plan. No, I don't think that's a good idea, Joe. You're not the boss. I'm the boss.
Listen here. You can't go to jail for swapping on a swap.
Yeah, I don't think that's true, Matt. The worst fucking attorneys.
It really is. So every time we talk about the Suns, I just get sad because I really can't think of we said it a year ago where we were like, is this the worst that any team's ever been down bad? And now it feels like they don't really have a choice because they've already burned the bridge with KD because they got addicted to trades.
Yeah.
And they tried to trade him for apparently. Now, look, this is from Barry Jackson. So once again, do you believe state-funded media?
Yeah.
Because if you do, then. But he said that the offer was Jimmy Butler plus stuff for Kevin Durant at the deadline. And they turned it down. Now, I don't know if I believe that.
Yeah.
Because it is coming from Barry Jackson. But ultimately, once again, there's nothing that could have saved them here.
No.
But if you got Jimmy and stuff, I would have been like, okay, at least you can be like somewhat competent and have some pathway to being, once again, like a play-in team. But I just think the NBA, one of the reasons why I'm not crazy about this for the Wolves if they end up doing it is because Now, look, Demon Conley, his whole thing, as we've talked about before, is everyone hates a trade and then it works for them.
Yeah.
That's what happened with the Gobert trade. That's what happened with the Cat Randall trade.
Yeah.
That might be happening again here with this trade where everyone goes, the league is moving towards, what feels like what we talked about with no shitters and weak link stuff, where you want to have a deeper, more athletic young team that can withstand the ups and downs of the regular season. And look at what the Pacers and the Thunder have done to get to the finals and how that pays off over the course of a full calendar season. They're going in the opposite direction here if they do this trade, basically.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, now look, Gobert and Conley's whatever. They're both old, so you don't really care about that. But like Dante provides some youth. You might lose Naz Reid or Nickeil Alexander-Walker here.
Probably both.
Maybe both.
Yeah.
Maybe both here. Yeah. Like that is moving away from that model unless you continue to run your draft picks, which if they keep their draft picks here, and then I think Terrence Shannon Jr. is very obviously going to be a bench rotation piece next year.
Yeah.
I'm not quite as sure about Rob Dillingham. Another piece of this is that people laughed at the Rockets for the Rockets and the Heat for saying, I don't know if we're willing to include Khalil Ware from the Heat or Reed Shepherd from the Rockets. And my whole point on this was, why would you? Unless that is like, if that's the tipping point for the offer and that's what gets you over the finish line to beat another offer, okay. But why would you bid against yourself in these negotiations? Because it doesn't even feel like you'll need. Now, once again, those guys might suck. Like, I think Khalil Ware is going to be pretty good. And like, maybe Reed figures it out. But like, Rob more so for the Wolves here. If they don't need to be included, don't include them. If the Suns are set on getting one of those young players, then okay, you should be up for negotiation. But there's no point in just throwing them out there because, like we said, the Suns' offers that they're getting are like not great. Like I think that they're going to end up walking away from this getting much less than what they traded for Kevin Durant in the first place.
Oh, 100 like that. I don't think that's a question. Like they're taking a bath on this one way. Or what did Bill say? Bill was saying, you paid $10 million for a $7 million house, and now you want to sell it for $7 million. And they're like, too bad, you're getting it for $5 million. And then I was like, that's an awesome analogy for all of your listeners, Bill. Are all always buying.
Very relatable.
We're always buying $10 million houses. That's like our favorite thing in the world. So
I understand that, but yeah, I understand that not everyone can get it.
Your money, right? So that doesn't matter. So here's the thing: is I actually kind of like, the more I think about it, I like that trade for the Wolves because I do think that like. The new CBA, they made that Gobert trade, if I'm remembering correctly, right before the new CBA, right?
Yeah.
I don't think because like under the old CBA, that Gobert trade is like not as damaging because the money is not as long. They've been kind of gearing towards cutting salary for like a while now. Like, and I think that smart front offices are realizing that this thing fucking sucks. All of these guys, because of the new parity, more guys are qualifying for supermax extensions. More role players are getting squeezed out. Like it's stratifying the league a little bit. Like where you have all these guys that are making like $30 million and more, and then there's like no one making like in between that, and then it starts up again at the mid-level exception is like when like it kicks back in. So I think kind of resetting the payroll, getting yourself on a younger thing. Like in this case, you would have Randall and Durant would be kind of like your older guys. Those guys are re-signed at like, I don't think like you're probably not extending Durant on a max again. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
no.
Yeah.
Neither with Randall. I think that's what they've identified is they identify these guys who were like all-star, all NBA level talents that aren't valued by the league as much as they probably should be from a numbers perspective, which is Durant at his age, which the market has told us that there's no team that's willing to max him. And then Randall a year ago, where they're like, all right, we can get Randall back at 28 million a year. We might be able to get KD at like 35 million a year. They just did it with Gobert 2 years ago. Where they extended him at 30 something million a year. So,
and then like McDaniels, that contract looks so expensive. And now that's like a totally fine contract. You know what I mean? Like, so And then you've got Ant there with like his money, but then you're just kind of young and cheap.
But he still just started a second contract. Like,
right.
This was his first year of his second. We're still 3 years away from him signing the Supermax. So he's got time for all of that to figure itself out.
I think the plan here is to like contend for like these next 2 years. You have Durant and Randall in here. I think they want to use these next 2 years to reset the repeater. I really do. Like,
and makes sense.
And then if you reset the repeater, if you can stay out of the tax the next 2 years, you reset the repeater, and then you like you're meanwhile you're paying up. I think that'll carry us through to like what 2028, and I think they're kind of close to getting their picks back at that point. Like,
I like that Sam knows that everyone's going to hate this trade for the Wolves, so some would call this a preemptive take.
Yeah,
he's getting ahead of it, and the contrarianism.
I think it makes sense though, because like Ant is your franchise. You know what I'm saying? You want to like give Ant, like, where you get into trouble is when you're not ready for like when these guys like come around. Like you might be able to like flip Randall for picks later on down the line. Like you can kind of get young. You can identify like if one of your young guys pops, like at this point you're playing Leonard Miller and Minot, and those guys are probably nothing, but like you can do Sam Hauser's, you know what I'm saying? You can do the roster churn at the end of the bench, which is what Miami's always done and how they've always stayed competitive. And if you're good at talent identification, the way the Wolves
are good at that.
Like, it makes a lot of sense you would rather do something like this while Ant is young. I think you're still competitive enough. You know what I'm saying? Your team is probably worse than it was this year, but you're still competitive. And like Durant, if everybody's healthy, and that's a big if with Durant, like, don't get me wrong, but like, are we sure? Like, I'm not sure the Wolves don't make the conference finals again. Probably not, but like,
they'll have a shot. I mean,
they'll have a shot.
I didn't think they were going to make it this year, and they got some injury luck. So
yeah. So like, I think it's actually like a pretty good plan for your long-term viability of your franchise to like, if you can stay out of the tax for this year and for the next 2 years and stay competitive, you end up giving away, the picks you end up giving away here in this draft end up being like what 23 and 20, 4 or 21 or whatever that ends up being. That doesn't, you're done paying off the Gobert trade. The Rob Dillingham trade is going to be paid off at some point, and then you've got your Supermax guys seasoned. You'll figure out some of these young guys and figure it out. I don't know. I think it makes sense. I think Conley, if that's what Conley's trying to do, that makes a lot of sense to me, and I think that is a zag against what the rest of the league is doing, which is kind of what Conley is known for like identifying some of this stuff.
No, I love it. Preemptive take. Pray for Sam Szn.
Okay.
We'll see if the contrarianism ends up paying off. So for the Spurs and the Rockets, I think that those two teams both have. I actually think of these teams, it probably makes the most sense for the Wolves to trade for KD, just because they need to like figure out what they're going to do with their next iteration of their team. Whereas the Rockets and the Spurs are both so young that I'm like, we already were like, I was fine with the De'Aaron Fox trade, but I also was like, you better hope this is the right guy that you're spending your picks and the money on, because now we're just before the draft and we're getting reports that I'm not sure what to make of them, to be honest with you, where it seems like the Spurs might be. I can't tell if this is just we're bored and there's a week and a half until the draft and everyone just goes, well, they might not draft Dylan Harper now, or they actually are not super set on drafting Dylan Harper and that they would explore trading back to 3 or maybe even further to 4, 5, 6 if a team is willing to give up real shit to move up to get Dylan Harper, and they would be fine taking with, whoever at 3, whether it's Khan or Malawach or Ace or whoever. So the report that came out this week was basically that the reason why I originally kind of blew this off with the Sixers are interested in trading up for Dylan Harper. I blew that off because I was like, okay, Daryl Morey is throwing out literally everything he possibly can. He's throwing shit at the wall. He's saying, we like VJ. We want to get Ace in for a workout. We're open to trading back. We're open to trading up. He doesn't want to show his cards. I think that was what the plan was. But the reason why I am a little bit more on board with the idea of them potentially doing this is only due to there's two factors. Well, the main one being Kyle Neubeck and all the other Sixers reporters did not shoot it down immediately. Whenever we get a report like this, it's usually like all the reporters being like, this is not true. And they're usually right. They're usually like, this is coming from someone else. This is not what we're interested in. Mm-hmm. But the second part of that is that I think they view Dylan Harper as Daryl Morey is desperate to save his job, which I've talked about time and time again. I think he knows this is his last year if he doesn't turn things around.
Yeah.
And Daryl Morey is desperate to get another potential franchise player in the door. And right now, love Tyrese Maxey. He's probably not quite good enough to be a franchise player. Jared McCain, still very young. We'll see what happens with him. Joel Embiid's injury stuff, all up in the air, question marks. Of all the guys at the top of this draft that you could potentially get, trading up one spot and getting Dylan Harper is probably your best chance for that star bet to hit and get a potential offensive engine. And the comps that Harper's been getting, specifically one comp near and dear to Daryl Morey's heart, is James Harden. And that is all he knows. All he knows is James Harden. That's the only way he knows how to get himself out of a jam. Trade for James Harden on the Rockets, trade for James Harden on the Sixers, draft the new James Harden, a few years after you trade away James Harden and you stab him in the back. And that's why I think that this Spurs news, this Sixers news is relevant, because what I heard was that Ace Bailey does not want to work out for the Sixers, and that he basically is trying to angle himself to get drafted by the Spurs at 2 or maybe potentially at 3 in a trade back if the Sixers were willing to trade up to 2. And that their camp has been a little bit resistant to working out for the Sixers until they know there's no chance that the Spurs will draft him. But also, at the same time, all we've ever heard this whole time is that the Spurs are just going to draft Harper and figure it out later.
So, but the fact remains that like, how is De'Aaron Fox going to react to that? Like,
this is the whole thing I was talking about in the Discord the other day. I was like, Castle and Fox are really nice players. I don't give a fuck. Like, if I think now, look, if they've done their evaluation and they go, maybe we're not that crazy about Dylan Harper, that's a different story.
Yeah.
That's where you would worry about those things. Where you go, wait, this guy actually can't shoot off the dribble, and like we also have multiple other guys who can't shoot off the dribble, and we feel like we have this guy in Wemby, and we don't want to take a whiff on a guy at the top of the draft when there might be a chance that we like a guy just as much, and we can also get an extra first round pick.
I also, like, I also think that this is the Daryl Morey like robot stuff, though. Like, I think it does matter, especially when you just traded for De'Aaron Fox. Like, neither of those guys are projected to go anywhere. You know what I'm saying? It's not like
I would trade Castle today. That's the difference, is that I would literally be like, if the league is very high on Castle, I would just trade him.
Well, I'm not even talking about Castle. I'm just talking about like Dylan Harper and De'Aaron Fox. Like, I don't even, because I think, Castle would just be the off guard to whoever, in that thing. But those guys very much occupy the same role. Like, I don't like, who's gonna like want to play off ball? Like, Dylan Harper, his biggest question mark is the shooting. So how are you turning him into an off ball guard? And we've literally seen De'Aaron Fox struggle in an off guard, like,
with another guard.
Like, so I think that's the big fucking problem. And maybe I am not looking at this from an objective perspective, because I am someone who thinks Dylan Harper is just in the next tier. And I think Dylan Harper is close enough to guys like VJ, Trey, that next level of guy. And if that's the case, like, I don't fucking like, why would I want Dylan Harper? And honestly, if they're interested in Ace, I don't think it's just the Sixers that is a trade up candidate at that point. I think like Charlotte could be a trade up candidate. I think the Wizards could be a trade up candidate. Who's 5 again?
See, that's where I disagree, because I think that Daryl Morey would just be a bastard and draft Ace if they knew they were trading back for him. That's the situation that you're getting yourselves into, where if you trade back and you go, oh, well, we know Ace is going to be there at 4 or 5, Morey will go, no, he isn't. I'll just take him.
We'll
know by draft night who they're trading back for. That's how it works every year.
Yeah. Here's my thing though. Like, you just said Daryl Morey's, this is the last year of Daryl Morey's. Like,
I'm aware. I'm just telling you, I know that's what he would do.
But I'm saying, would he do that? If I might make that bet, I would have the stare down with Daryl Morey. It's like, okay, if you want to get fired to own us, go.
Yeah, I don't think Daryl Morey cares about any of that stuff. I think that he would do the asset play. That's what he's done his whole career.
But I'm saying, if you're just saying no, so it's like, okay, you have Ace Bailey and you've lost your job, because I don't think if Daryl Morey wants to keep his job, I don't think you can draft Ace Bailey. I really don't.
That's also another factor in this, is that if Ace doesn't want to come here, the Sixers don't want Ace. How far would they be willing to go? I am just telling you, if this happens and they trade back to 4 or 5, they're drafting Ace Bailey at 3. I'm telling you, if the Spurs make it known that they want Ace Bailey, the Sixers will be selecting him. This is what Daryl does. Like, this is always been his thing, and I think that he would do it. And he would say, now just give us the pick that you traded back that you got. I'm telling you, if he feels like he could be the center of attention and control the draft board, he will absolutely do that to get what he wants out of this situation. Now, if I had to rank the possibilities of what happens in this draft, I'm still going with number 1 being Harper just goes 2 and they figure it out later. I think that's the most likely scenario. I think VJ goes 3 to the Sixers. And I think Ace falls a few spots. I think Ace falls to like maybe even down to 7 to the Pelicans. Because at this point, the Sixers, Jake Fisher wrote about it in this week's article about how VJ has basically only worked out for the Sixers so far, which I think there was a report that came out that he might have worked out for either the Jazz or the Hornets. So that might not have been necessarily true. But I've said from the beginning of this process, if they stay at that pick, I think they're taking VJ Edgecombe. I just think that he has the best analytical profile of any guy that's on the board. Yeah. He has a very safe floor. And if you get him in and you really like him, and from everything we've ever heard about VJ, is he's like a really high character guy, super hard worker. Everyone loves him, which is the kind of guys they've been successful with the Sixers, with Maxey and McCain and that mold of guy. I think that's who they would draft if Harper goes 2 and they stay at 3. That's what I think is the most likely outcome in this draft. And I think the more likely outcome is that one of Ace or Khan falls. Whoever goes at 4, let's say Khan goes 4, I think that, and Trey goes 5, Ace might go to 6 or 7 at that point. Yeah. The other element of this is, if the Sixers know that the Spurs aren't crazy about Harper, I think they will do everything in their power. The rumor that we heard that they were willing to trade for was they would get, to move up 1 spot, they would include the 3rd pick of the draft, obviously, to move up to 2. And then they would also include the 35th pick in this draft and the Clippers 2028 pick that they got from the Harden trade. So the Spurs would basically get whoever they wanted at 3, whether it was Ace or VJ or Khan or Trey. And then they would also get a 2028 first and the 2nd round pick in this draft, which the 2nd round pick is just a throw in at this point. That doesn't really have much value. But the 2028 Clippers pick certainly has value for a team that could make other trades and continue to build out their roster around Wemby. The thing for me that I've been a little bit confused on is, like, if you don't want to take Harper there, and I know that Harper's the most ball dominant of all these guys, but like, if you're drafting VJ or Khan or Trey, specifically Trey or VJ, aren't you going to want them to get on ball reps too? Like, I know that especially VJ and Trey will do more of the off ball shooting. Khan will do more of the off ball shooting and connecting stuff. And VJ will do some of the role player grunt work stuff that Harper might not be willing to do. But I do think that my whole thing is, like, I do think Harper, I've said Harper's like half a tier above those guys still. and I would just stay at 2 and take Harper and figure it out later. But how good does this board look for you if you trade back and you're still drafting a guard is what I'm trying to get at. Now, if they draft Ace or Malawatch, that's different.
You're talking about the Spurs drafting.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Spurs. If they trade from 2 to 3, they're still probably the best players on the board that you just laid out are probably still guards, even if they're different kind of guards.
They're different kind of guards, but I think they fit it. I think what you just said, though, does make a big difference. Like where Harper, I think Harper, while he has like a little bit higher of a ceiling, I think his value is intrinsically made a little bit worse because he has a need to be on ball. That you want the other guys to get on ball reps, and they will, like when the bench comes in, but like they can also participate next to a ball dominant guy. Like I'm skeptical Harper can participate in a meaningful way if he doesn't have the ball. Trey, I definitely know. I think Trey is going to be a gravity
one
guy.
Of your 2 best players.
Yeah. And I think I think like Trey and Khan are going to be gravity floor spacer guys. VJ is going to be a grunt work, rebounding out of the guard spot type of guy. I don't think Harper has that in him. And that is why I think the fact that both the Spurs and the Sixers have and honestly, it's a bigger problem for the Sixers because they also fucking Grimes. I mean, who cares? Like maybe that doesn't do anything, but like, both of those teams have 2 really good guards that they have put real assets like into 2 guards. Both of those teams have already done that. Like versus,
I will say the difference between the Sixers guards and the Spurs guards is that Maxey and McCain are 2 of the best off-ball players in the entire NBA.
True. That's sure. Yeah.
That's honestly, the reason why I'm pro trading up for Harper is because I don't think best long-term that you get out of both of those guys is they're in more of an off-ball role where they can slide onto the ball when necessary.
I just think if Harper's available and I'm the Hornets or the Jazz or the Wizards, it makes so much more sense for those 3 teams to give up real value than it does for the Sixers to do so, I think, to move up and get Harper. So that's I just think that the 20, does anyone have an asset as good as the Clippers 2028 first? Because that's also like a really fucking juicy pick. Like, I don't know if
I think the Jazz do, but the Jazz have been historically like Ainge is very anti-trading up.
And like, so that's why I think like, honestly, I think like the Wizards and like the Hornets, that would kind of be huge for either of them. Now I know LaMelo is still in Charlotte. I think they've realized that LaMelo, the LaMelo era is not it. Like I think that I don't think LaMelo is going to be on the Hornets in the next.
You don't think his brother going on podcast and saying that he should play for the Clippers has both of his brothers being like Charlotte sucks?
Yeah. I think they're like willing to move on from that, and I think the Wizards. I think it would be like a fucking home run for the Wizards. Like Harper is like exactly what. I
don't think that the Spurs would be willing to trade all the way back to 6. Like I just think that's too much of a because but you literally just laid out. If they like Ace, it's different, and if they know the Sixers aren't taking the risk, it's different.
Yeah.
You're leaving a lot up to chance, though.
You are, yeah.
Trading from 2 to 3, 2 to 4, that's different. Yeah. Trading from 2 to 6, you might get there and none of the guys you like are left on the board. Like you just explained, you said, I don't think VJ and Trey are that far behind. I don't think either of those guys could be available at that point. And Ace also might be gone. So then you're like, all right, I hope we really like Khan or Malawatch. Yeah. That's like that's the scenario that you get yourself into.
Well, and I think that's what it would take to say yes. You know what I'm saying? And also, like, what are the Wizards offering you? You know what I'm saying? Like
Corey Kispert.
Yeah, Corey Kispert. What if they offer you Sar?
I mean, I don't think they would offer Sar, but that would be very funny considering that we kind of talked about this all last draft cycle before Sar ended up going to.
Like Sar and 6 for, would you do that as the Spurs?
The Spurs are just addicted to getting players who can't shoot.
That is like one of the only places Sarr would work, I think, in the NBA. So like,
okay. Well, I think I could work with Wemby too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I guess that's also
like we're trying to maximize Wemby here, not maximize Sarr. But I look at it like from the Spurs perspective of like what I don't think that they have to lock themselves into anything, even if they just draft Harper. Because I'm not, once again, I've said this before and I've said it again. I'll say it again. Yeah. I'm not rushing anything for Fox. And I know that that's not how teams work, but like they didn't expect to be in this position. It's probably why they shouldn't have made the trade so early.
They should just trade Fox. If they like Harper, they should just trade Fox. I'm not kidding. Like I 100%. You should, if you like Harper, then
have we ever seen that before? A player getting traded and then getting traded again at the next transaction cycle, like a big name?
I don't think so. But like it's been rarer that teams have jumped like 10 spots or whatever the fuck they jumped in the draft. Like they didn't think they would have a chance to get a guy like this. So like you should be willing to like pull the plug on like something like that. Like call the Celtics and say Drew Holiday and 3 firsts or whatever, like for Fox and see how that, or Jaylen Brown, like something like that. Like, would you do that? Would you do Jaylen Brown for De'Aaron Fox?
I don't know. I'm just like, I don't care. I feel like we've reversed roles here.
Yeah.
Because normally you're the one that's like, you have to, you don't, who cares about Julius Randle's feelings?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, you just traded for this guy. It's not like in a vacuum. Like you have to worry about like, but in this situation, I'm like, once again, if they have made the evaluation that they think is Harper is an all NBA player.
Yeah.
We have seen before a team choose, now just little historical comp here.
Yeah.
What was the last time a team chose De'Aaron Fox over a lead guard that everyone was very high on?
Yeah, yeah.
And they decided to build the team in his favor.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to maximize him and his window. And that other team's in the NBA Finals now. Now, this is honestly, and everyone just calm down. I love Maxey more than anything in the world. I'm not like those Zoomer psychos on Twitter who are trying to trade Maxey for Jalen Green in the 10th pick in the draft. What I'm going to say, though, is that I am a little bit concerned that the Sixers are treating Jared McCain like he's a bum.
Yeah.
Like all the reports come out are like VJ Edgecombe and Maxey went to dinner. They view Maxey as as one of the key franchise players moving forward. And I'm staring down this like, why are we like completely deprioritizing one of the best rookie guards from the last decade who is instantly good in the NBA?
Yeah.
And like, I love Maxey, but like we've seen this kind of thing play out before where if you choose the older, more proven, but also we kind of know who Maxey is at this point player over the guy that's a little bit more of a mystery box that was incredibly successful early in their career, it can have some negative ramifications. And once again, this is why I think next year is the test case year to see, which is why I think they'll just draft whoever they think is the best player available at 3, which is why I've died on the hill that I think they're just going to take VJ Edgecombe.
Yeah. But
then you're starting to worry about long-term fit with these guys where you're like, you just brought up the Grimes point, VJ, Maxey, McCain. How does this thing all work? And that's similar to the Spurs. I do think this is something that the Sixers could just figure out later. And they're in a little bit more of a beneficial scenario because they don't have to maximize the roster for this upcoming year. Because if Joel doesn't play, then it doesn't matter. Like Wemby's healthy. Like you want to get Wemby out there and competing. And I know that he's like, on a passage to Mecca right now. And he's, doing side quests. But when he gets back to basketball, I have had the thought, what if he just never came back? Have you seen the photos?
Of Wemby?
Where he's dressed up as a monk?
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
Amazing.
He's reading Brandon Sanderson. This is what he's making a pilgrimage to the cities in
Salt Lake?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's going to Salt Lake City to ask Brandon Sanderson to Cosmere questions. Yeah, I I don't know. The Spurs, that Fox trade was just so fucking, I don't know.
Preemptive?
It was just, you weren't ever going to like make noise in this playoffs. Like I understand that like the with Wemby's like injury, like the timing on that was like,
this was all Rich Paul, dude.
Yeah.
Rich Paul was like, Zach LaVine wants to go to Sacramento. De'Aaron Fox wants to go to San Antonio. Let's get it done. And he got it done. He's a great agent, dude.
He really is. He might be the best agent.
He's definitely the best agent.
It's him or Bartelstein. Like,
yeah. I mean, Bartelstein probably gets bigger bags, but
yeah,
if you want to get your way, Rich Paul will get your way.
Yes. Yes. Rich Paul will, if you have a conflict with your front office, call Rich Paul. Like,
I'm a little bit worried about Tyrese Maxey, to be honest, because Rich Paul is Tyrese Maxey's agent. either forcing a trade a year from now or forcing them to trade McCain or whoever to make the team work better with him. I'm a little bit concerned about that.
Well,
also,
you guys owe him a favor too for holding off that year.
Yeah, I mean,
Rich Paul will not forget that. Like,
no. So that's the scenario that the Sixers might have got themselves into. I got to bring this up because I've talked about the fact that I think that Ace's camp and what Ace's perceptions of who he is as a player are maybe different than what teams would want out of him coming into the NBA. And one of the reasons why I thought the Sixers might be a little bit scared off from that is because if Joel is healthy, they might be like, you're like 5th in the pecking order, dude. You're 6th in the pecking order. Like, you're not going to get shots like you did at Rutgers.
Yeah.
You're going to need to grow into a role. And that's what Sam Vecini talked about on the PHLY Sixers podcast yesterday, where he was basically like, do what Jason Tatum did. Do what Kawhi Leonard did. Do what these guys that come into the league and they put in their work for the first 2 years and they put in their time. And then eventually they're the star guy. They get the ball. They get to grow. He was basically saying he hopes that's what happens for Ace.
Yeah.
If I'm going to call Ace out, not call Ace out, but point that out for Ace, I also have to point out for VJ. VJ is apparently, if we're to believe the Jake Fisher report, telling teams that he thinks he's a point guard. And that was surprising to me because I've kind of thought of him as more of a off-ball guard / wing who will take a lot of time to grow into an on-ball player. And I thought that he would be the kind of person. Now, maybe he just means like defensively. And maybe he thinks that like, I want to be able to grow into a point guard long-term, but it is worth pointing out when the Sixers have Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain, who are not traditional point guards, but they're point guard sized.
Yep.
That if they're also bringing in VJ Edgecombe, who views himself as a point guard, it's not the perfect fit. There's really not a perfect fit for the Sixers in this draft at all.
Yeah, I don't know.
Positionally, Ace is a perfect fit.
I would say Ace is positionally a fit. I also think Trey Johnson gives you guys something new, like just in terms of like movement.
I think I like Trey a lot. I wouldn't be disappointed if they selected him.
Yeah,
I don't think he brings them anything new, really. I think he's just more of the same, but that's fine. You would just be leaning into your strengths.
I think having both him and McCain, like I think that's I guess not new, but additive. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think you can have enough movement shooting is what I'm saying. If you could have McCain and Trey,
sure.
Like if McCain if Trey is, if you're playing small and Trey is like at the 3 for you or whatever, and that's a really small lineup, but like you have Maxey on the ball with McCain, and like that is that is a nightmare cover for an offense. Now on defense, that's not
tenable.
Yeah, that's not tenable. But like,
I also think that if you're drafting Trey, whoever drafts Trey, whether it's the Sixers or the Jazz or whoever,
it feels like the Jazz at this point, to be honest.
It does feel like them. Like if I had to predict the draft right now, I would say Flag, Harper, VJ. I think that they're going to take Khan if VJ goes at 3. I do. The reports coming out of there are that they like, first off, the owner went to Duke. The new owner went to Duke.
Oh no, really? That's funny.
Yeah. And like, I think that from what I've heard, it's either if VJ doesn't fall to them, they'll consider trading back. So maybe a team trades up. Maybe the Pelicans trade up to 4 for Ace.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
That's a possibility. They might trade back to 7, the Hornets, or I think they're just going to take Khan. And maybe it's just they'll take Ace and they'll figure it out later. But after last year, I think they might be a little bit scared of taking. Now, look, Ace is 10 times the prospect of Saloon. I'm not saying he is Tidjon Saloon. Like, he's not in the same ballpark because he's way better than him.
Yeah.
But I think that they might be a little bit scarred and know that they have to hit this pick, and they might take a more quote unquote safe floor guy, and they might view Khan as that.
I don't think Khan's like a bad pick. I think that.
No, I think that's a good pick.
Yeah, I wouldn't like if they picked Khan, I wouldn't be like, oh, okay. I think the most Hornets pick would be if they picked Malawach at 4, and then he's like, we just end up with the worst case scenario of Malawach.
It would be such a good fit for him, though.
It would be a great fit, but I'm just saying, like, what if Malawach? Because I think Malawach is the one where it's like, it's easiest for me to see Malawach, besides Ace, I guess, of any of these guys. I could see him being a disaster. You know what I mean? Like also, you know, like athletically, but like I could see him really struggling with like speed of the game stuff, just because he has not played a lot of, you know,
he only
basketball.
He only played 20 minutes a game in college.
And he's relatively, compared to these other guys, new to the game. Like, you know, like he hasn't been playing basketball for that long. So it's going to be a huge jump for him. I could see it like, you know, being a disaster for like Malawach too. But if they could trade back with the Pelicans and then they're in the zone.
Dude,
to like
I wouldn't care. I mean, look, I would just take Malawach at 4 if you like him that much, because the fit with LaMelo is so good.
Yeah,
that's the guy that I want. I've talked about. I wanted the Hawks to trade up.
Yeah,
and get Malawach. LaMelo and Malawach would be a movie, dude. Like that would be incredible. If that's in my opinion, the second best landing spot for him because of the pick and roll capabilities of those guys. But I think what's going to happen is that they're going to be Khan there, and I think Khan's a fine pick too. I think the Khan is. No, look, will Hornets fans get flashbacks of, oh great, we just drafted the good white basketball player from college, Frank Kaminsky. Cody Zeller was another one I think they drafted. Yeah.
Drafted him at 4 in that draft.
Yeah. The difference is that Khan was very good in a major role on a major team as an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
But Khan at 4, and then I think Trey goes 5, and then 6 is where it starts to get interesting to me, because 6 could be Ace.
Yeah.
Are we counting out 6 being one of Noah Essengay or to the Wizards, or maybe Malawach there? I wouldn't count it out.
No, man, if the Wizards picked Malawach, I would fucking hate that so bad. Man,
really?
I just like, you have to like get a gun if you have to, and you have to go to SAR and be like, you're a center, shut the fuck up. Like if you're gonna play SAR and Malawach together, you're gonna be a bad team. I'm sorry. Like that.
I don't think they care about being a bad team next year is the thing, though, because they owe.
I'm talking about moving forward. Like
I understand that, but also once again, this is all right. So I talked about this a little bit, and this is what's driving me insane about last draft.
Yeah.
Everyone universally agreed that the last draft sucked, right?
Yeah.
Before we went in, everyone was like, "This is a bad draft."
Yep.
Why are we making decisions based on that draft if we think that there are better prospects in this draft? That's my whole thing. Is like, if I'm drafting for talent and I need an upside swing, and I think Malawach is the 3rd best player in this draft, and I can get him at 6, then I don't give a fuck about SAR. And once again, now the front office obviously should care about the success of SAR because they drafted him, and you don't want the second pick of the draft to be a failure. But if Malawach is such a big hit that he's fucking Rudy Gobert, then no one will give a shit about SAR.
Yeah.
So, but just once again, this is not about you. This is more about the fact that when I see people do redrafts of last draft, everyone agreed that there was no consensus and that most of these guys could go anywhere from 1 to 9 and it wouldn't be that big a difference. But every time I see a redraft, it's like, okay, yeah, well, 1 would be Ricochet, 2 would be SAR. And I'm like, wait, what? Why do we even play the NBA games if that's the case? Right. Like, I personally think the 2 best players from last year were where did Matas go? 11 and 16 with McCain.
Yeah.
Like, and then Castle, sure, 4, but like, I once again, I'm not caring about last draft enough to let it affect this draft. And I think that if you think you can get away with the double big thing for a year, I think they're going to tank again next year, the Wizards, because they owe like a top 10 protected pick, top 12 protected pick to the Knicks, I think.
Yeah.
And then they have a potentially another stacked draft, and that's the last year I think they'll tank. So if I'm going into this draft, I'm just coming out with the best player, and I don't care. I'll figure out the fit later.
I mean, you probably don't have to worry about needing to tank. You know what I'm saying?
No, they're going to be bad no matter what.
You're going to be bad no matter what. So I don't think that like matters at all. I just I understand what you're saying. For me in this draft is defined by the fact for me that like I think the player, I think 2 through like 7 is like pretty close in like player valuations. You know what I'm saying? So and at that point, because I understand what you're saying. If you are high on Malawach, yes, you should just draft Malawach. For me, I don't think Malawach and Khan and Ace, I don't think any of those guys are like very different. So at that point, you should draft for guys who are going to be able to play together, because that is going to make your team better in the long run. Like that is not just like you have to be good for next year. That is, guys are going to develop better if they're playing a role that is more like what their role is going to be when they're good. You want to start them in that role as soon as you can.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
But I will say this much.
Yeah.
To me, I think a team like the Hornets, I think a team like the Wizards, I think a team like the Pelicans that are kind of in this weird holding pattern as teams where they don't really have their like core like cemented in place.
Sure, yeah.
Especially because the Zion shit with the Pelicans, like that just puts them sideways.
Right.
That to me feels like someone like Malawach or Ace that I might view more as a long-term bet, like a project, might have a little bit more value for me. Jazz too, just because I don't care about his first contract. I don't care about the first few, like throw the first 2 years out the window. How does this guy look in year 3 or 4? And how can we get more top picks to play around him in the future? And obviously you want everyone in their right roles and you want guys to be additive and stuff. But like, I'm pretty sure Khan's going to be pretty good in the NBA as a rookie. Like, I'm pretty sure that Khan's going to come in and be a neutral player as a rookie. But if I'm a team that has nothing in place, that doesn't do quite as much for me as a team that does have, like, that makes more sense for the Sixers or the Spurs or these teams that have, like, their core guys on the team already than it does for these teams that are a bit, like, the Jazz are the ultimate blank slate to me.
Yes.
Which is why I think they're going to take Trey, because I think that they probably view Trey as, like, the Tyler Hero, Devin Booker upside swing of this class, where the shooting and the shot making is so special that you could just let him suck for 2 years while you're adding more stuff to your core, and then hope that 3 years from now you have a good young core. Because right now they're still entertaining Walker. The other slot that we got is that they're entertaining Walker Kessler trades.
Walker Kessler, you are a Boston Celtic. Drew Holiday, you will enjoy being a Utah Jazz.
It sounds like it's the Lakers are the front runners again for Walker Kessler. I'm like, it's been a year of this.
God, this is it's very Tobias Harris. Like, have you traded for a Jazz center? Yes, but never works. We always wasn't. Or no, I guess Vanderbilt was on the Wolves, but it was a 3-way trade.
He did get. Yeah, he was on the Jazz for that season. They got him from the Jazz.
Oh, they got him for the Jazz. Yeah, the Russell Westbrook. Okay, yeah. It's just, oh my God, dude! Like, I can't.
You just called Tobias Funke Tobias Harris, by the way.
Oh, did I? Yeah,
I was like,
yeah. That's.
I thought you meant Miles Turner because he was someone who's literally perpetually on the trade block and never gets traded.
No.
Now he's in the NBA Finals.
The only 2 Tobiases in my life. I just, God, what would that trade even be? Like, what? I guess Walker Kessler still hasn't signed a contract, right? He's
coming up on his extension right now, basically.
I mean, that actually does kind of make sense, because then you can get him in the door with the Lakers. But what are you giving up?
Letting him play with Luka for 1 year and getting a massive bag, because Luka makes every center good.
Well, you trade for him and then you extend him before they play games together. is what you?
There you go. You sell high.
Yeah.
You're doing the paperclip to Ferrari trade.
Yeah.
I came up with this trade the other day. I did want to run it by you.
Okay.
Just because people have talked about how how hard it is for the Cavs to make upgrades, because the two guys that they're willing to trade are Darius Garland and Jared Allen, who both mean more to the Cavs than they mean to other teams, because not a lot of teams are looking for a point guard, which I think is a mistake. I think Darius Garland could help a ton of teams, and not a ton of teams are looking for a center. So this was the trade that I came up with. It was a 3-way trade where the Cavs get Daniel Gafford, who also wants a contract extension right now, and PJ Washington. So they send out Jared Allen to the Lakers, along with Chuma Okeke to make the money work. And then Austin Reeves, Jared Vanderbilt, and Isaac Okoro go to the Mavericks to make the money work. So the Mavericks get their guard in Austin Reeves. The Lakers get their center and Jared Allen to play with Luka.
Okay.
And then the Cavs get another big that can play with Mobley and Gafford, but doesn't have to play with Mobley. And then they get a starting level wing in PJ Washington. And the Mavericks don't need wings. So basically you're just moving all the problems around here and making the rosters make more sense.
I would want, if there's picks involved, I would want to be like getting a pick somewhere. I think I would want like some sort of Mavericks draft compensation going to the Cleveland to make all that value line up. Just because I think
Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington, for Jared Allen is basically the trade for the Cavs.
Yeah, I would want a little bit of draft compensation involved in that. I think the Lakers value, like I think Austin Reeves for Jared Allen, I think that makes sense. Like I did from a value perspective, but like I would want a little bit something else from.
I think that makes sense only because Gafford and Washington are both up for contracts in a year.
Yeah.
Right now, honestly, they have a year left on their deals.
And I was gonna say I would like want some sort of, and I don't know, Mavericks don't really like have picks. How about what if it's Garland for Kyrie? Are we sending Kyrie home? Making a massive blockbuster.
No, there's no way. Because people have talked about the LeBron going back to Cleveland, and I'm like, that's never gonna happen, dude. The I'm coming home video again
for Kyrie. Yeah.
We're doing the J. Cole version because P. Diddy got canceled.
Yeah.
They're like, find that leak where J. Cole ghost wrote this song for P. Diddy. We can't play the P. Diddy version anymore.
What about I would like it more if could I like send PJ to the Lakers and then I get Rui instead?
Why would you do that?
I like Rui more than PJ. I'm gonna be honest.
On the Cavs?
Yeah.
I completely disagree. The Cavs need defense if they're getting rid of Jared Allen. They're getting a defensive wing.
Is PJ a good defender? I
think PJ is a much better defender than Rui Hachimura.
Rui's a better 3-point shooter though. Like I
it's about know. Even. He doesn't take many threes. He takes wide open threes and makes a few.
I'm not a PJ guy. I think PJ is kind of like a fake wing.
But PJ's also played deep into the playoffs as a defensive wing. Like it's like he's proven himself. They have never had a defensive wing. They tried it with DeAndre Hunter and he sucks on defense.
Yeah. Bad. I wonder. Yeah, no, and I guess you can't really make that money because that's the problem. Is like I would want to find a way to get rid of DeAndre Hunter, like if in any trade like that. Like I wouldn't want that money hanging.
I think most of their trades, they're probably going to try to do that.
Yeah, like I don't know how you make that money work or something, but
he was pretty good for them in the regular season. The Cavs are amazing in the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, you did just get hurt, and the East is shitty.
That's probably why they end up running it back.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would probably run it back one more year, like just to see, like especially where Garland's hurt.
I think trading Garland would be a massive mistake at this point because I think his value is so low. Yeah. If I were a smart team like Utah, or not Utah smart, but a team that just has nothing to lose,
Yeah.
I would be trying to trade for him, especially because he might miss the beginning of next year. Great. We can tank next year and we can bring Garland back in January.
Yeah. Colin Sexton, 3 first-round picks, and Colin Sexton back.
Going back. Well, I actually had I was thinking Lauri Markkanen for Garland.
Oh.
Because Lauri Markkanen's already played on the Cavs.
Yeah.
They just have a massive lineup at the 3-4-5 with those guys. And then Garland, to me, that makes sense for Utah. If I'm Utah, absolutely, I want to take a swing on Darius Garland. Lauri Markkanen is older. He doesn't do anything for me on this contract.
That would be huge. And you could even take back Hunter to make the money work or something like that.
Yeah, I think that Garland makes like 15 million less than Lauri or something.
Yeah, I'd take the money back and help out the Cavs, save a little money there, and then call it. Yeah, God, Lauri
I know this sounds insane, but I would be a little bit worried that Garland might make us too good, because Garland is like low key one of the best floor raisers in the NBA. He's not necessarily a ceiling raiser, but floor raising. They had a 125 offensive rating with him on the court last year without Donovan Mitchell.
I would worry a lot more about that if I were in the East, but I think in the West.
The West, they'll still win 25 games.
Yeah.
They'll still be at the bottom of the totem pole. I agree. And especially because the rest of their team still stinks.
I think that's interesting. I think does that framework work of like Lauri Markkanen and Colin Sexton for
literally the Donovan Mitchell trade back for Darius Garland?
Yeah, for Darius Garland and DeAndre Hunter. Like, I kind of like that. Like, for both teams. Like, I like it's perverted, but like, you still would need a wing defender. Like,
are you not trading with Danny Ainge? I mean, that's the most perverted GM we have.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Jazz get Darius Garland and DeAndre Hunter. That's a lot of money. That's like over 50 million.
Well, but
the Jazz have some cap space too, though. They're sending out 46 million. Lauri Markkanen makes $7 million more than Darius Garland.
Oh, it's only 7. I thought it was more.
And then Sexton makes $4 million less than Hunter. All right, this failed.
Oh no.
The Cavs get too much money back. So the Cavs would just have to throw in
or not having Garland, or you could send a core, or no, you probably want to keep a Coro in this case.
You could probably throw in Craig Porter, Chumo Kiki. There we go. He's been my guy. I've been throwing into all their trades. I think they literally signed him to. It still failed.
Wow. How far off are they?
Like, 270,000. So you could make it.
Oh, you could. I think you can figure that out. Yeah. That's interesting. I would consider that's exactly the type of. That is like exactly the type of trade that the Jazz need. Like turning Lauri Markkanen into something like Darius Garland is like. You need to do anything you can. If the Cavs tell me to jump, I'm asking how high in that trade. Like I'll take all your shitty money. I'll take if you.
I'll include like a protected first round pick.
Yeah, like either a first round pick, something like that. Give me Garland. You can have Lauri Markkanen back and.
Right, Lauri Markkanen does nothing for us in our current process. We can sit out. We can have Garland play half the season next year, and then we can reload, and maybe we have like AJ Dybansta and Darius Garland going into the next season.
How old's Darius Garland? Is he 20?
By the way, the BYU track, AJ Dybansta. Garland's 25.
Like, what's his birthday? Like, is it?
He's like 20 January, I think. 25 going on 26 in January.
Wow. Yeah,
he's young.
I would be trying to. Yeah, you're totally right. We should be trying to get him. Yeah, January 26th. Yeah, man.
If you're a team that has nothing to lose, and also we've talked about these guys. Like the difference is that Garland has had some injuries, and that eventually that might catch up to him as a small guard. But he's not someone who like relies a ton on athleticism at all. But he's very fast. The thing that I keep coming back to is these guys, these like crafty high feel guards like Garland, they always get better into their late 20s and early 30s. Like you could see him get traded to another team and make like a leap to like second team All NBA. I think if he had his own team easily. And I think you're like, oh cool, we just got a top 15 player in the NBA that was being held back by his context. And look, maybe we're not winning the championship, but like we're the fucking Jazz. Like we have nothing going on for us, or the Wizards, or one of these teams.
I just made something foul in the trade machine. I thought the salary was it's almost a perfect match salary wise. Let me run this one by you.
Okay.
Because in your spirit of teams that have nothing to lose, if you're the Cavaliers, would you do Darius Garland for Jordan Poole, Bilal Coulibaly, and picks?
No. I wouldn't even consider it for a second.
For what? For you wouldn't consider like
for the Cavs?
Yes, for the upcoming Wizards first.
No.
Wow.
They can't. First off, they can't trade their first next year. The Knicks already own their first.
Well, you could be like top 10. You know, you could.
I wouldn't consider it. I wouldn't consider it because if I'm the Cavs, this is my window. That trade does nothing for me.
You don't think Bilal would be good on that Cavs team?
Sure, but I it's too much of a risk for me to take. Like, this is why I wouldn't trade Darius Garland if I were the Cavs. I think any trade that they trade Darius Garland, they're going to lose it.
Yeah.
Because once again, I know that the fit isn't perfect, but also the league isn't lining up to trade for a small guard. And Bilal might be decent. He also might suck.
That's true. Yeah.
We're not sure about Bilal yet. And I'm looking at this window right now with Donovan Mitchell at 28 years old as like, we got to do whatever we can to potentially get to the conference finals or win the conference.
How about Chris Middleton instead of Jordan Poole?
I still wouldn't do it.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I wouldn't trade Garland unless I'm getting back like a high level wing.
Yeah. I probably
or I'm trading both Jared Allen and Darius Garland and getting a high level wing or big back.
Yeah, no,
I don't see there's a trade out there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull up some Jazz slop that we got this week, real quick because I just thought some of it was interesting. This was from Tony Jones.
Let's go.
Friend of the show.
Let's go.
From Philly, by the way, Tony Jones. I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Things to note: the Jazz would trade Lowry Markkanen and Walker Kessler for the right price. No one is untouchable. Doesn't see Utah moving up to 3 just because it's the same tier pick as 5. The Jazz could get a haul from the Lakers for Walker Kessler, so doing that coupled with drafting Kaman Malawach could be interesting. Speculation, not reporting. Best case scenario is one of VJ Edgecombe or Trey Johnson is available at 5. Utah would likely choose between Ace Bailey, Kaman Malawach, Jeremiah Fears, or Khan Knipple if both VJ and Trey were gone. And Jazz are expecting to bring in Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe, Kaman Malawach, and Khan Knipple before the draft for workouts.
Interesting. No Trey.
No, Trey was on there. Trey was number 2
for the workout list. I think it was.
So Trey wasn't on the list, but they're assuming. So what he's trying to say is mostly that they are. What they're trying to say, I think that was just lost in the shuffle here, because I think what he's trying to say. I think that if Trey's there at 5, they're just going to draft Trey.
I was going to say I think he's like the most likely, and I think that's kind of the best case scenario for them. I would rather have, if I'm the Jazz, I would rather have Trey than VJ or.
VJ just is like, I like VJ, but also like I want to, if I'm drafting VJ, I want to have a team that already has stuff in place.
I was going to say VJ, I think that's like the only place VJ kind of doesn't fit is the Jazz, because there's just nothing.
Because everyone else has stuff in place already.
Right.
Like you can see the vision with VJ being that complimentary guy early in his career, maybe growing into something better down the road. But as a young player, I would not want him to go to a team where he's just like, all right, run 100 pick and rolls a game. Whereas I think you could see someone like Trey or Fears or someone. Now, if they draft Fears, they're definitely not trading for Darius Garland.
Yeah, no.
And honestly, the optimistic upside that you would have with Fears is that he can become a Darius Garland.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably like his comp is something.
That's like his ceiling. That's like if you're like really optimistic on Fears, because Fears has this like crazy handle. He's like a jitterbug. Yeah. He's more of a rim pressure guy than Garland. Garland's a little bit more perimeter based.
Yeah.
But if I did a little bit of a refresh to my board this past week. Mm-hmm. And I think the most notable change, I didn't make a ton of changes at all, but I think the most notable change and something that I'll probably get a ton of pushback on, but I can't risk it with Derek Queen. I can't risk I can't risk not having this guy top 10 on my board. And I know that everyone's going to say all of the negatives about him, and they exist. The defense, the rebounding, all the stuff that could sink him. And the fact that Gavoni kind of implied that he might have showed up out of shape to the combine. Not great looks, to be honest with you. But the more I think about, like, he's my Edie for this draft, basically. Where he was a dominant college big.
Yeah.
Now, some of that stuff might not translate, but if we're making, I have him at 9 on my board now.
Okay.
But if we're making the league is built on outlier shit, all of the stuff that we're projecting for a role for him, we're just overthinking it, I think. And I think you're just making a bet on the talent and the fact that this guy's like a legit 6'9", 6'10", can handle the ball, can get downhill, has good touch, has shown passing and playmaking flashes, is an incredible finisher inside, lives at the line. And now there are many things that could sink him. He's not going to be the most scalable player in the world. He's not going to be number 1 on the dunked on draft board.
No,
but
he will not.
But I do think that there's a world where we look back, he falls to 17 in the draft or 16 in the draft. And we go, why the fuck very similar to Şengün from a few years ago, where we just go, wait, this guy is massive and is talented. And this draft is just filled with shaky star bets, I would say. Because I have a tier, which I'm calling hedging my star bets. And him and Fears are in there. And I have Colin Murray-Boyles in there as well. Where I just think that with those 3 guys specifically in this draft, it feels like all we ever do is talk about how things aren't going to work with them. Because of the shooting, because of the role projection, because of what we know about the modern NBA. And I could absolutely have egg on my face that I could be wrong about this. But if I'm betting on just pure talent and skill and being good at basketball, I think those 3 guys easily have pathways to becoming like impact star level players in the NBA. And I can't have them outside of my top 10 just because I feel even the guys, as I said before, even the guys I like, I think I could see the floor falling out on Khan's athleticism or Trey. Everything with Trey other than the shooting and the scoring could absolutely fall apart and not work at the NBA level. Malawach and Ace are just tools bets to me more than anything else. Yeah. And then these guys are in that next tier of very good basketball players that will have to a smart, good team. J. Kyle Mann keeps talking about it, and Sam Vecini keep talking about it with Colin Murray-Boyles too, where they're like, these guys are the most specific getting drafted to a team with a good coach who knows how to use them. Yep. And they could be good. If they go to a team where they're just like, hey, you're going to have to fit in around the rest of the team and the coach doesn't really give a shit about, making them work, then it's probably going to be a struggle for them, especially early on. But I do think that with the more that I look into Queen, the more I'm just like, bro, they had 125 offensive rating when he was on the court. And the thing that and their defense was way better when he was on the court too. Now their bench was dog shit at Maryland last year. So that was a big part of it, I've been told. But the thing that I think that I've thought about him more so, and the guys he keeps getting comped to, Şengün, Sabonis, all those guys. The thing that I haven't loved about his game is the fact that he doesn't do the dirty work stuff that those guys do. He's not a great screen setter. He's not like gonna muck it up, whatever. He's more of a finesse player than he is. Like he's not
really gonna be a great rebounder at the next level.
Might not be a great rebounder. Might have to play the 4 because of all this, and maybe that is what sinks him. But the thing that differentiates him from a lot of guys, he pushes the pace. Yeah, he runs in the open court with the ball and will find guys and score in the open court in a way that I'm not used to from bigs. Now that's also, once again, you're betting on a lot of things that might not translate, but this is 100% just a tools and skill bet combined with the fact that the guy that we faded the most last year in the draft that we ended up regretting was Matas Buzelis. Yep. And the reason why Matas is more of a wing. He's a better,
he's an athlete. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't think Queen is an athlete in the traditional sense. I don't think he's someone who's going to test well at the combine. But he does have elements of athleticism. He's got a really good decel. He's got really good balance. He's got star qualities, is what I'm trying to say.
If he could be strong, I don't know what his strength is.
Super strong.
Okay, if he's strong, are we wrong? Maybe Sabonis and like Şengün aren't the comps. Maybe like Julius Randle is the comp.
That's another guy that I was thinking somewhere along those lines, where it's like the shot develops, because he shot like 40% from mid range on decent volume last year. Like, he does have touch. He shot 72% from the line. He's not a total lost cause there.
You might be talking me into it. I might, by the end of the draft, I might join you as a queen pervert. Like,
our boards are going to be so similar. People are going to be like, you guys just copied each other. I will say I'm a little bit closer to consensus.
Yeah, well, we normally do better. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. My promise to everyone is I will not have Dylan Harper 2 on my board. So there that
would be one of our differences. So, the other thing with Queen is the fact that, like, these untraditional guys always end up getting faded a little bit, and once again, this could completely sink them. But he does at least have traits that stars have in the NBA, and I think in a draft that is not filled with those guys, he's a worthy swing once you get outside of that top 5 or 6 guys.
Yeah,
and then I'm comfortable taking him from anywhere to like 7 to like 12. And I think the reality is he's probably going to fall to like 17, like 16, 17, 15. And at that point, I'd be happy to take him, because then it's just found money if he ends up being great, because there's no risk involved in that at all, if you think about it. So the last thing I just want to say is, like, I think the thing with Queen is that I talked about the Matas thing. The thing that I underestimated with Matas, and the thing that I underestimated, and why I'm a little bit higher on Danny Wolf too, is bigs with handles are just like margin for error merchants. Like if you're a big guy, if you're a 4 or 5, and you can legitimately handle the ball, drive, make passes, create your own shot, I just think that you're going to have more of a margin for error in the NBA, because that's such a it's a very hard thing to find, is what I'm trying to get at. Like, guys that are that big, mobile, and skilled. So that's why I'm a little bit in on Derek Queen nowadays.
He's gonna get drafted by the Thunder at 15, isn't he?
It's very possible. Very, very possible. The guys that I heard that they like, I know they like Coward. I think they'd consider Coward, Colin Murray Boyles, or Queen, who's ever on the board there of those 3.
God damn, they're gonna get away with it, man. That would be brutal.
He would be so good with Chet.
Yeah, that would be.
Although he does kind of not really fit the defense thing, because Murray Boyles fits the defense thing a lot better with them.
You know who I would take if Derek Queen, if I were a team. And it's not a conventional thing. I think Portland should take Derek Queen.
That would be interesting. So him with Klingon?
You've got the guards. Yeah, you got those guards. You know what I'm saying? You sub Jeremy Grant. Like, he's, you start with him coming off the bench, and the replacing the Jeremy Grant and running your second units and seeing how it goes. Like, they kind of, not as much, but Portland's like a leveled up version of the Jazz, in that they don't really have, they need to be taking upside swing things, guys like that. So I think Queen, like, it with where they're picking in the draft, I think Queen's going to be one of the only guys like on the board who like can do that for them. And I think with Klingon, because Klingon can pass too. You know what I'm saying? When both your bigs can pass,
we've seen it with Chet and Hartenstein.
It's a good thing, and especially what you just said about a big being able to handle as well. Like, and if like I was like him taking the ball out of Scoot's hand, I don't care. Like, Scoot,
that's not something you worry about.
Yeah, I'm not.
Also, I want to point out their guy is Mike Schmitz.
Yep.
I will say Queen might be getting, maybe his range isn't quite as low as we think, because I do think that the fact that he played in high school with Cooper Flagg is not something that should be over. I think guys like Asa Newell and Queen, now Liam McNeely just had a terrible college year, so I don't think it really matters for him.
Yeah.
But guys who were productive in college, that played with Cooper Flag. These guys have had the eyes on them for 5 years at this point, 4 years, however long it's been since Flag went there. So if it's been that long and they've been on the radar, the teams will be comfortable taking swings on those guys, I think, that are like true draft sicko pervert. Like Schmitz probably likes Queen. Like, even though he doesn't exactly match what they've drafted so far, if they want to take another upside swing, I would definitely take him at 11 if I'm them. There's not even, that's the best. When you get to outside of the top 10, he's very obviously going to be the best star bet.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're in lockstep on that. And you've talked me out of like, because I gotta just like let go of the rope because I love Queen, but I'm just like, but none of this other stuff is gonna matter. But if he's strong,
he's super strong. He's strong. He's ambidextrous. He can finish with both hands.
Yeah, like I don't like. Why the fuck not, man? Like, what are you gonna do? What else are you gonna do at 10? Like, take fears? Like, it doesn't.
To me, it's either you want to take a surefire role player like Thomas Sorber or Carter Bryant, or you're taking a swing on a star like a star potential guy like Queen.
I was gonna say I would probably take Carter Bryant. Like Carter Bryant's gonna end up higher on my board than Derek Queen, but like outside of that, like the next tier of guys is not like crazy. Yeah, like I would much rather have him than Danny Wolf, who's someone I've like heard. You know who else is Casper. I know there are people who like Casper more than me, but like Colin Murray Boyles, like no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't take Noah there. I would rather have Derek Queen than Noah. Like,
so my thing with Carter Bryant, bro, he averaged 8 points a game in EYBL. Like he has never been able to score at any level. And I feel like that is something, if you're projecting someone to be a legit NBA starter, I think maybe Portland is the team that doesn't care about that, because I mean, what I'm trying to say is that the guys that are in Carter Bryant's mold are generally guys that get drafted at the end of the first round, beginning of the second round. But because this class is so bad, he's rose up to the top, to the lottery. I still have him in my lottery because I think that he'll be a fringe starter wing, and maybe he could grow into something more because he is like a legit athlete who's very good on defense and has real size. And like all these guys take a long time. Like OG Anunoby sucked when he was his age. Yeah. And that's the idea. If you're drafting him, Tumani Kamara, OG Anunoby, whatever. Just having said that though, I think that he's very clearly a high-ish floor, low ceiling player. Yeah. And if I'm drafting for the Blazers, I'm in agreement with you that I would rather take a swing when I already have two defensive wings like Denny and Tumani. Maybe there are other teams in that range, like Houston. Fine,
that's what I'm.
That would be good. They don't really need anything. So just getting more good players doesn't hurt them. Like they should not draft Queen because they have Şengün and it doesn't make any sense. But in general, I think that's the mindset that I would have with Carter.
Would you let's real quick little mock here. So Cooper, let's say Spurs keep the pick. Dylan, VJ 3, and then I don't know, Ace or something like.
I think it's Con. I mean, I think it's Con at 4.
Okay, so Con at 4,
Trey 5.
So 6 would, I guess, be Ace at
Ace
that
or
point.
Malawatch, one of the two.
Oh, probably Malawatch. You're right. And then Ace 7. Mm-hmm. So now we're at 8. On the board are Fears, Casper, Colin Murray Boyles. Do you take Derek Queen at 8 if you're the Nets?
I would take Colin Murray Boyles, or I would take Queen.
I think I would take Derek Queen at 8. Like when you like mock it out,
if the board breaks this way, I think that they end up taking Fears.
Fears, yeah, probably, yeah.
Which I'm also fine with, but I also I think that they should be considering those kind of swings at that spot. Once again, another blank slate team.
Yeah, like I don't like Colin Murray. The problem with like Colin Murray Boyles is like, you know, we've talked about how the Raptors, like that's like their kind of guy, but that's also like kind of a nightmare fit. Like
everyone's a nightmare fit with them unless they got Cooper Flag.
I think Fears is not a nightmare fit.
No, they do need a lead guard. Like in general, I think that they could use a lead guard.
And Casper, even though I'm not a Casper guy, like what you want Casper to be, I don't think is like
he'll be a 6-man for them instantly next year and like provide like a spark plug off the bench.
Sure. And yeah, like Colin, it's feeling more and more like if Houston likes Colin Murray-Boyles,
I think they'll take him.
That seems like where
they are analytically driven, that front office. I mean, they
Yeah.
drafted Şengün, they drafted Tari, they drafted like a lot of the guys that read, a lot of the guys they've drafted. Really, the only one that wasn't analytically driven was Jalen Green. Yeah. And Amen, I guess, because we didn't have a ton of analytics on him, but
I think that's its own little tier right there, I guess is my point. From like 8 to 12, I think there's going to be a like Casper, Fears, Colin Murray-Boyles, Derek Queen little run there. And then you're going to get into your Carter, Bryant, Jace Richardson, Neek Clifford, Thomas Sorber, like is another tier. I think that's
if I were the Bulls, I would draft Queen. I mean, Queen and Matas is a great complementary duo, I think.
Yeah, that's where he's mocked a lot of the time. I guess the reason I wanted to do that is because like I don't think Queen, like when you look at the other guys who are like available for like the teams in that range, there are a lot of teams that aren't like blank slates, but just kind of need talent. You know what I'm saying? Like besides the Rockets and the Raptors that are weird, but the Blazers, Nets, and Bulls all
if Queen hits, he could take them up a level.
Yeah. Well, all of those teams kind of need talent. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not going to really worry about fit at all, or they don't have anyone who's like slotted in to like definitely get on ball reps for the foreseeable future. You know what I'm saying? All of those, even though the Blazers have a lot of good players, you don't care about taking any of those guys off ball. You know what I'm saying? Like Shaedon Sharpe doesn't matter. Obviously doesn't matter for Klingon. Like what?
I have some breaking combine slot.
Oh, let's go.
So they didn't release Khan's combine stuff until this morning.
Yeah, you look at his vertical.
First off, his vertical was much better than I expected, but verticals suck. It's the fakest fucking thing.
Yeah.
He tested combine value wise at shooting guard 57th percentile, which is not bad.
No.
At point guard 72nd percentile, because it takes in size into account as well. Keep in mind, because he's obviously a large fella.
Yeah.
And then his closest comp, it's actually a pretty good NBA player. Do you want to guess who his closest physical and agility comp was?
Buddy Hield?
That's a good guess. No, it's Dylan Brooks, actually.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I love Khan, dude. Like I'm like so like every time that I watch Khan and every time that I read more into Khan, that I'm like, everyone is just over. Like I think Sam Vicides, because he put him third on his board, and I was like, thank God I'm not the only one.
Okay. I feel I'm agnostic.
I'm very scared of the fact that he's gonna get switched onto guards and look like a fucking fool a lot. Yeah. But other than that, I'm like, I feel pretty good about him.
Yeah, no, I'm like middle of the. I just think he's like a surefire good starter with like some weaknesses and some things he's good at. You know, I'm pretty middle of the road on Khan.
I don't 32 percentile for a wing though. That's not good.
Yeah, I just don't think he has much upside compared to like some of these other guys that are in his range.
No, mom, we're conflating athleticism with upside again.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if he can be a dead eye, I mean, I am kind of doing flirting harassment where of like Trey Johnson, I'm just like in love with the gravity and like the shot making, but like Khan is like
Trey looks more like a star when you watch him. Like Trey, like the highs of Trey are like wow.
Yeah,
but also the ancillary stuff, Khan's just better at everything.
That's true. Yeah.
Which is the thing that I struggle with, where I'm like, if I'm projecting their roles into the NBA, I think Khan, drop him onto any good team and he's going to be additive.
Yeah.
And that I know that people are worried about the ceiling with him, and I get it. And look, maybe he's just a bigger Luke Kennard, and I have fucking egg on my face. And Luke Kennard also sucked as a freshman in college. I want to point out, he barely ever played, and he was terrible when he did. But maybe I have egg on my face, and this is, he's the 13th best player from this draft. Okay, that's whatever. I will die on the hill that I think that everyone is sleeping on his upside because he's a dopey looking white boy. Like the guys that we always like, and that's kind of how I feel about Queen too, where I'm like, he doesn't fit the mold, but like these have leagues built on outliers. Like not everyone has a fucking amazing, can jump out the gym and is the greatest athlete in the world. And I think that we always conflate athleticism with upside. And if you look at the 20 best players in the NBA, there are a handful of guys who are elite athletes, and some of them are just very good basketball players.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'd say honestly, like most of them who are like the elite athletes. Anyway, obviously it was LeBron forever. It's like Giannis and
Tatum's a pretty good athlete. I wouldn't say he's an elite athlete, but I would say he's like a very good wing athlete.
He's way more skill than he is.
I agree.
He's way more skill and size.
Skill. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Younger Tatum was like fairly athletic. I feel like he's not quite as he's put on more weight and size. He's not been quite as athletic. So
Ant is like the next. You got to go down to Ant to get to the next. Like
Mobley, I would say Mobley's pretty athletic. But like once again, it's Mitchell. It's half. It's about half and half. You know, you have for every one of these guys, you have an SGA, you have a Luka, you have a Jokic, you have a Halliburton. Like it's about half and half at this point.
Well, and like. Well, even Donovan Mitchell, though, even though Donovan Mitchell is an athlete, like we didn't like think he was like an upside athlete. You know what I'm saying? We just thought he could like hang. You know what I'm saying? Like it kind of didn't even. What made Donovan Mitchell pop was the huge skill leap that he took. You know, like so it really
everything fell into place for him. Yeah.
So you might be cooking with this con thing. I still can't get there, but like I mean, it does make sense. Like,
and if you're optimistic on someone like VJ, you go. This guy is still clearly figuring out how his athletic. It's VJ. The optimism with VJ for me, if we take him, is that it is very reminiscent of Maxey in that it feels like he's super talented and skilled, but he doesn't know how to harness all of those things yet. And he will figure that out because he's just a top tier athlete and he has elite qualities and he's a hard worker and all that shit. It's very similar in that regard to me, but the optimism with VJ is like, I don't even think he was particularly great on offense at Baylor this year, and he still had a high impact on that team. And like that's like a positive that you can spin if a guy is not the most skilled in the world, is like he's still developing his skills and he was a positive impact player. So if he ever develops those skills on top of the baseline level of athleticism and production he has, the sky's the limit.
Man, I can't. I'm realizing how fucked my Celtics are, dude. Like, get ready to learn Hugo Gonzalez, buddy.
Wait, is that who you're gonna take at 28 or wherever you?
Yeah, it's gonna be Kalkbrenner and Hugo Gonzalez. Is goddamn, dude.
I would like. Oh shit! I would like Kalkbrenner for you guys.
Yeah, it's pretty. I don't know. I was hoping we could get someone I could get excited about. You know, like
he's just old. Like he's going to be an NBA player, but like it's like he's probably a good backup.
Well, and we already did kind of the low ceiling guy with Baylor last year. You know, like
Kalkbrenner's massive though. Like the thing with Baylor was that there was always going to be those. The athleticism questions were always going to be the case for him, and if he wasn't great as a rookie, it's like he's 24 already.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I know like people are saying, I know Celtics Matt is higher on him than I am. Like he thinks he's going to be able to
for Baylor.
Yeah, he thinks he's going to be
fine. I mean, I think he'll be like a fringe rotation guy, but
I don't. I mean, he's going to have to play next year when we trade. We're probably trading Hauser, so like he's we're going to find out.
Oh yeah, that was the other slop that came out. I did miss that you guys are probably going to trade Hauser.
I mean,
which makes sense. You're not. He's on a good contract. You don't want to waste the contract.
Yeah, he's smaller than MLE guy, so like pretty much anyone can have him who's not a second apron team. So like that makes it more available. Like if you're the
playoff level player, he's played well in the playoffs in the past.
But like he would be money for the Pistons. Like they would like that. Those type of teams like could definitely use him. I'm trying to think who else is like the
Rockets.
Rockets could definitely use him. Even like the Mavericks could like use him. Like I think I don't know what they would give up, but like they're like another team that could get in the mix.
I I wonder if he could be a fifth starter anywhere. Just because I feel like he was on a really deep Celtics team, and he's good enough at enough things.
He'd be awesome for the fucking the Cavs. He's a good defender. When he's healthy, I swear to God, he's a genuinely good defender.
No, I agree.
He doesn't have a lot of pop off the ball, but teams over and over again would try to isolate him and attack him, and it just doesn't work.
No, he's good on an island. He can hold his ground.
Yeah, so I think the Cavs, I think he would be great for the Cavs. I mean, I know they already did Max Strus, so it's similar, but
yeah. So before we get out of here, any thoughts on the NBA Finals? It's the best NBA Finals we've had in 11 years, 12 years.
I mean, I have to. Going into last night's game, I was like, I think I can still salvage being right out of this. I don't think so. I think the Thunder
had their chance.
Yeah, I think the Pacers needed to win last night. And Trill is going to love me saying this. The Thunder showed me what I needed to see. I needed to see that game out of them. Trill telling me it's already happened 3 times in the playoffs. I disagree. I don't think that Nuggets team counts, but they on the road. Game 4, I know what happened in Denver. I don't think it's the same thing. I think this team is actually good. I think this was a higher pressure situation. And they had a bad 3-point shooting game and won. I know they only took 17 threes in that game, but the fact that they were able to pull it out, only making 3 is, a miracle. I can't remember the last time a team made 3 threes and won a playoff game. You felt it early in this game too. It felt like the exact opposite of the games where the Pacers win, where the Pacers were playing really well, shooting the fucking cover off the ball early.
They shot 80% in the first quarter from 3.
And they just couldn't get a gap. And it felt like a game that the Thunder were going to get in. And unironically, flowers to J-Dub, who fucking kept the Thunder afloat until Shea showed up in the fourth quarter. Because they needed someone to do something. Chet, his bone exploded. So he was, I don't know.
If OKC wins these finals, I feel like you have to put Alex Caruso in the pantheon of guard defenders.
Yeah, he was also he was the other one.
Dude, he was the best player on the court for stretches.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy is unbelievable. When the way that he can get into passing lanes and just disrupt shit.
Yeah.
It's I literally would be scared to dribble the basketball on the court with him because he just appears and I don't have the ball anymore. He has some of the best hands I've ever seen from a guard.
It's very clear that to me that their closing lineup should be just Caruso in the either the Case and Wallace or
Case and Wallace. Case and Wallace has just really struggled.
Yeah, well, I mean, because what they've done when they're bringing Caruso on the bench, they've always started either Case and Wallace or Hartenstein. And just your closing lineup just should be their best. I don't know if the lineup data backs this up, but their 5 best players to me have been the starters with Caruso.
I would say, and with Dort shooting the shit out of the ball in the finals, that's
Dort's been awesome.
Viable, yeah.
Dort's been awesome. I think this thing has bared out that Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe, even though those guys have both had moments, I think those guys are not playoff caliber.
Isaiah Joe's defense is just not. He just can't survive in a Pacers series.
Aaron Wiggins had a good game too. I think it was he had
he was huge in that game when they blew them out in that game, but he was a big part of why they did. Yeah, he had 18 points on 6 of 11, 4 rebounds, a steal, assist, and then he struggled the last 2. But he also got Dagnall's been short to pull those guys recently, which has really made a huge difference.
That's what I'm saying.
Early in the series, he was getting a little cute, but now he's starting to be all right, we got to fucking win these games. He only played 8 minutes last night, Wiggins.
And I think that's sure. Kenrich Williams has also done pretty well, as their extra bench guy. So I think basically
Kenny Hustle, the heart and soul of the team, dude. He really is their Udonis Haslem.
Yeah, it's very funny. So yeah, I mean, look, I can't even be mad. I was really locked in on game 3, and I was going to be furious if the Pacers didn't win game 3. That because I felt like the Pacers were the better team all game in that game. I felt the exact opposite in this game. I think the Thunder were the better team. I thought it was really impressive that things did not go their way, and they found a way to. They did the Pacers thing to the Pacers. Is basically what happened in Game 4, and I thought that
I would be so mentally broken if I were a Pacers fan today.
Yeah,
I know this whole season is like house money and like what an amazing run in season, and you should cherish this shit because this shit doesn't happen often.
Yeah, for sure.
But to have the championship favorites on the ropes, a team that won 68 games and was outplaying you and you were winning, to lose that game which basically would have wrapped up the series and the championship is brutal. But I still don't think the Pacers are out. Like I think the Pacers, and once again, I've said this all throughout the playoffs, this has been my big thing. We overreact game to game, we overreact series to series. This is the perfect example of it this series, because every game is like very tightly contested except for game 2 when the Thunder had to win that game. Yeah. And I think that the Pacers absolutely can't be counted out in these last few games, but that was the best chance that they're ever going to have to win a championship, even if they end up winning this series.
I think the Pacers need to win Game 5. I think the Thunder are winning Game 6, no matter what. So
a lot of people said going into last night, whoever wins this game wins the series, and it's starting to feel a little bit like that. But I'm not counting out the Demon Pacers. If it weren't for the Mathurin choke at the end, they literally might have won that game.
That's true. You know, like
that's the thing with this team is like we're highlighting all these positives about the Thunder and some negatives about the Pacers, but like, bro, Mathurin missed three free throws down the stretch, had a dumbass foul.
No, had two away from the play fouls, which is brutal. That's brutal. Like, that's crazy.
And he wouldn't have even played in that game if it weren't for Nesmith
fouling out.
Yeah.
So like, because let me tell you, I think Demon Nesmith hits a three. Demon Nesmith hits those free throws, man. Like I think he did miss one like right before that. So like maybe maybe not, but like
maybe edit that out.
Maybe not. But I just I mean, we'll see. It would be very funny to me if the road team won every game from here on out. Like I think that's the Pacers. I think that has to be the Pacers roadmap, is the road team winning from here on out. Because I think both home crowds are going to be too.
Dude, it has been
nervous.
Identical to the Nuggets Thunder series so far, though. How weird is that? Nuggets come back and win game 1. Pacers steal game 1. Mm-hmm. Thunder come out and show, all right, we're not fucking around in game 2. They destroy them in game 2. The Nuggets win game 3. Yep. And the Thunder go down 2-1, and then they look like they're about to go down 3-1 on the road, and they come back and they steal the game to tie up the series 2-2. It is identical. So that means that the Thunder are winning the next game, the Nuggets are winning game 6, and then the Thunder are putting the smackdown on the Pacers at home in game 7.
I think the Thunder are winning game 6 regardless. So I think the Pacers kind of need to win this one on the road, which is a tall order. It's hard to win in Oklahoma City, like especially if you're an East team. Like I think them winning game 1 was the first time a East team has done that in 2 years or something like that. It was something crazy like that. Was the stat like
bringing the demon magic to the evangelicals in Oklahoma City is the real test.
Somebody said Satan was busy in Iran, which is why the Pacers won.
I did see. I don't know if you saw the. It cut to the. There was like an advertisement. Did you see this?
No.
Where they said Halliburton was summoning demons, and it was an advertisement for like a horror. I think it was like a horror film. Hold on.
Oh no. That's super funny.
Everyone's TV apparently our stream didn't get fucked up because of it, but everyone's TV got like some message in the middle of the game, like the screen went blank and then it was like
oh god,
they were like Halliburton summoning
the demons.
They really are the demon man.
Did we talk about that Netflix series that they called Osama bin Laden the Pacer?
That is insane, dude. I saw they said he would walk out into the garden.
Yeah,
and then they showed Halliburton walking in the garden.
Yeah, so the Halliburton, they call it. I took the screenshot of the guy where it says like you can see it's like Netflix Osama bin Laden thing, and it says they called him the Pacer. Like
that's unbelievable magic, dude. Awesome.
The Halliburton took a hit last night though. Like it's tough. You know they're gonna need Joe Biden to call the troops back. In the next in game 5. So
We'll see. We'll see. Either way, amazing finals. It's from a
from a
neutral perspective. Finals. It's been refreshing to have a great NBA finals that we haven't had in quite every year. It's like 4-1.
It's a great silver lining for me if this ends with me getting turbo owned and spending a ton of money on the Tux. That it's a great ending for me that at least I get one of the only good NBA finals of the last 2 decades. It's a nice thing to have, I would say.
So I will say the Suns Bucks finals was very good. People have pointed this out, but there were no fans. So like it was like half fans. It didn't have the same like vibe, I feel like, as this finals. Like this vibe, these are teams that have never really been here before. These are guys that give a shit. And I couldn't have asked for a better finals. I don't care about the ratings at all. Fuck the ratings.
It's dorks versus general public. Like all the dorks are very invested in the Thunder doing well. The general public loves the
very backed on the Pacers. They've drew their line in the sand.
Yeah. So this is there's a lot of good narratives. It's a lot of fun. Like let's see what Demon Carlisle cooks up, because you also can't count out Demon Carlisle making an adjustment. I would say, like, so will Ben Shepherd, I'm looking at you, King. This is Mathurin had his chance. It's up to you. It's up to you, Playboy. Let's get that 5-3 game from Ben Shepherd cooking. Didn't Julian Strother have like a big in that series? Game 6. Game
6. The Julian Strother game.
Ben Shepherd, you could be Julian Strother.
The best shooter from the end of the 2023 first round. That's what's on the line here. The best guard/wing shooter off the bench for a contender. That's the title that everyone is fighting for.
Who doesn't want to be that?
Derek Whitehead, the injuries derailed him.
Is he going to play this year?
Derek Whitehead is done, dude. He's cooked.
It's a shame because I would have liked it.
He's just not. Yeah.
It's tough.
No, that's just an instant whiff, unfortunately. But all right. So we'll be back next week. We'll do our unhinged mock draft next week in the middle of the week.
Yeah.
That will be a public episode. This is technically a public episode because the last week was Patreon. The last episode we did when I was gone was Patreon.
You put that behind the Patreon wall.
Yeah, I did not. I didn't have time to edit it, and I was like, gone off the perkies from the surgery.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not trusting this right now. I'm just going to put this on Patreon.
Honestly, it was a lot more tame than the last time we did.
Well, if you want to hear that episode, it's behind the Patreon wall. You can sign up for that. And we'll be back middle of next week, and we'll be ready to go. Hopefully we get some more slop between now and then. So thanks for watching. Peace.
Bye.